Mr. President, I rise today in support of the Rule 28 point of order raised by Senator McCain against the legislative branch appropriation bill. I voted against this bill the first time it came through the Senate, and now it's even worse. In fact, we violated one of our new ethics rules that we talk so much about here in the Senate and the House, where these conference bills could not contain a provision that was not part of either the House or Senate bill. We call that airdropping. But we airdropped some significant things into this bill, violating our own ethics rule. First of all, we added a 1-month continuing resolution that funds our government since we haven't finished our work here in the Congress. But we also added a $4 billion bailout for the Postal Service into this conference report bill. Again, violating our own ethics rule. The airdrop provisions are undemocratic. There was no debate or transparency. Like earmarks, it's just another tactic politicians used to have an end run around our constitutional limits. It's also wrong for Congress to fund itself while allowing all other government agencies to operate under a short-term continuing resolution. In 1995, President Clinton vetoed the Ledge Branch bill for this reason, and I quote, "Congress should not take care of its own business before it takes care of the people's business." If we're going to pass a continuing resolution, it should cover the entire government until we can have a transparent process that the American people can see. The only reason these tricks are pulled is that politicians don't want people to see what we're doing. But even worse than the process that's been used for this legislation are the policies contained within it. Around the country, families and businesses are having to tighten their belts because of the recession. Many are out of work. At the same time, we're increasing our budgets dramatically here. This Ledge Branch bill itself has increased nearly 6% versus last year, despite the growing debt and the serious economic problems we're having as a country. Just a couple of statistics from the bill. We've increased spending 128% for the House office buildings, 155% increase for the government printing office, 6.2% increase for the Senate whip offices, 4.3% increase for Senate leader offices, 4.1% increase for Speaker Pelosi's office, and 4.3% increase in the Vice President's office. And don't forget a $200 million or $200,000 earmark for a museum in Nebraska. Now, if we were in prosperous times and had plenty of money, surpluses, then perhaps some of these increases would make sense. But not at a time when we see all of America hurting and having to tighten their belts. We're passing bills. This is one of the smaller increases of the ones that have gone through in the last couple of weeks. We are spending our nation into bankruptcy. Our debt is almost as large as our entire economy and growing by $1 trillion every year. Long-term deficits for Medicare and Social Security are more than $100 trillion. We have no idea how we're going to keep our promises to seniors. When will all this end? The head of the World Bank, a former U.S. trade representative, is questioning whether the U.S. dollar will long remain the world's reserve currency because of our spending and because of our debt. A few weeks ago, I noted that some officials in Zimbabwe were concerned about America, our spending and our debt, and what could happen to our currency. They have good reason to. A friend of mine who returned from Zimbabwe brought me one piece of their currency. This is a $100 trillion bill from Zimbabwe. It's so worthless, he just gave it away as a souvenir. They're worried about our debt. We need to be worried about it too. This bill also includes a $4 billion bailout for the Postal Service, the third bailout they've gotten in 8 years. But the money is not contingent on any reforms within the Postal Service. So the underlying waste will continue and require another bailout in the next year or two. Why would we bail out the Postal Service without any requirement that they reform their policies, the policies that have led to this mess? There's some very obvious things that we could do. We could save $50 million just by stopping paying employees an average of 45,000 hours of standby time. We could close unnecessary post offices. There's a long list of things that we could do to reform the post office so that we don't continue to bail them out with taxpayer money. But there's nothing in this bill about doing that. It's only another bailout, another giveaway. So simply bailing them out will only prolong the problems and cost the taxpayers more money. In sum, if we look at the legislative branch bill, it's bad policy, it's followed a bad process, it continues this out-of-control spending and debt for our country. It does not deserve our vote.